This guy's dealing with like Monster and Rockstar and Red Bull and Coke and Pepsi and all the big boys. And we're like, hey, can we buy one pallet of cans that are called silver bullets? They're blank cans. And he basically laughed at us and said, there's no way that's ever going to happen. And stop wasting my time, kids, you idiots. Like, you don't know anything about beverage. So we sent him a nice little thank you note for taking the call with a $100 Ruth's Chris gift certificate inside. And about 5 days later, we got a call and a pallet of blank cans showed up, and that was the beginning.
Hey guys, Seth from Misfit Athletics here with another Misfit Athletics podcast. This time, episode 28. I'm here in Miami with
the biggest misfit of them all.
Really? Aaron Hinde from FitAid Beverage is the biggest misfit of them all.
Maybe not the biggest, but I think I definitely am a misfit.
I mean, I know, absolutely.
I think that's why we
I'm
get
totally
along
cool
so
with
well.
that. For you to be the self-proclaimed biggest misfit of them all is sort of an honor. You've taken that on yourself. You represent us that hard.
Actually,
that's
Travis
cool.
Williams probably gets that. Now that I think that through
Don't give him anything.
Never mind.
Don't give him anything.
That's his.
He'll already take that. Just don't give him anything extra.
It's true.
So today, thank you for taking a little time out of our awesome party weekend to chat about. I want to talk about business for a second.
Let's do it.
So you've run a very successful, in my opinion, company that has really flourished in the CrossFit community. I know it's now expanding well beyond that. FitAid Beverage, FitAid is really big in our community, and you have a whole array of other beverages. Well, first tell me a little bit about your business background. So how did you become the businessman that you are today?
Yeah, I was always very entrepreneurial, even from a very young age, and I think every business that I ever launched, whether it got a lot of traction or it broke even or it lost money, there was a big learning experience that was as a result of that. And I look at each thing as a real milestone. So, where I finally started making some money was as kind of a solopreneur. I was a sports chiropractor in Santa Cruz for 10 years. And for those that don't know, Santa Cruz is the home of CrossFit.
Yeah.
So I was actually in Scotts Valley where CrossFit media headquarters is. And
were you treating like old school CrossFit athletes at the time?
I treated a couple of the higher ups and got a lot of referrals. Our family started coming in. Some of the athletes started coming in. And then at the time, CrossFit HQ didn't have a gym at HQ, so all the athletes that were coming to town and HQ people were treating at CrossFit North Santa Cruz, NSC,
Yep.
And that's where I was training, or that's where I met all those people, and then they got me to try my first CrossFit class where I got my butt totally kicked.
So you were a chiropractor when you got into CrossFit?
Yeah, this was 2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're OG. You're even more OG than
I'm
any.
OG. I don't feel OG because, but... Yeah,
you know
I'm
what? That
OG.
biggest misfit
my skill
title,
level is not OG, but I've been around a while.
I've been around a while too, and my skill level is nowhere to be. Yeah, it's terrible. So,
but you can program good skill levels.
Well,
so
I guess I picked up something along the way. So if you've given up chiropractic work at this point?
Yeah, I when I sold my practice, I probably sold it way too early.
When was that?
This was 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was making really, really good money. I worked like 26 hours a week, making $350K a year.
Wow.
I had a nice lifestyle. I took every Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. I didn't realize how nice I had it, but I just was losing the passion because it was becoming very, routine for me. It wasn't as challenging. I mean, I was good at what I did, but I loved the people and I love that aspect. But you're starting to treat, there's only so many rotator cuff injuries and meniscus injuries and back herniations and whiplash cases. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I was driven. I felt very passionately when we started this project. And I just, in my mind, I knew it was going to work out. I knew it was going to be a success.
What gave you the idea? How did you come up with the idea to start a beverage company within the CrossFit community?
Well, Orion, my business partner, and I, we met at CrossFit North Santa Cruz. So we started training together, and he was showing up in the local newspaper because he was a certified financial planner, and I had written for the paper too. And I remember reading his article before I met him, and he was dogging on gold. Well, I had like a whole stockpile of gold and silver. It was like I was convinced that was the only way. I took all my money out of the bank. I bought gold and silver. And I'm like, I can't wait to run into this guy in town and tell him he's totally full of shit. And of course, I see him at the gym, and we kind of start chatting and hit it off, and then we realize our daughters were in the same class, and not only in the same class, but best friends. And so we started hanging out a lot, and he had free time. We started golfing together once a year. We were training together. We go to Burning Man together. And one day, we're cruising up the aisle in a grocery store in Scotts Valley, and it was an open air cooler. And my son, Bronson, who was 4 at the time, grabbed for a Monster, an energy drink out of the open air cooler. And, being from Santa Cruz, it was like the hippie capital of the world. We were totally offended by like that.
Right.
And I'm a chiropractor, was even more offended. And so, we started looking at it and analyzing and go, well, why is the younger generation attracted to these energy drinks, Well, A, they work, they jack you up. B, they're very cool and hip. They're not reaching for kombucha or chia or coconut water, which are these kind of hippie brands. They don't talk to that younger generation. So we just had this idea, like there's got to be a better way. We want to create something that's functional, just like, like the energy drinks that jack you up, but not jack you up, but something that gives a functional benefit, something that's cool, sexy, and hip, but also something that we could kind of give a wink to the moms out there, and that was really clean, that didn't have all the caffeine and taurine and sugar and all that stuff. So that was kind of the genesis, and it was really just passion and ignorance. I mean, we had a little bit of, we both had a little bit of business skill, but it was more passion and ignorance. And when we pushed our chips all in, one day we decided we were getting a little bit of traction. We're like, we can't serve two masters. We got to burn the ships at the shore. So he sold his practice, I sold mine. And we went in with $30,000 each and started the company. That was it.
So you could start a beverage company with $60,000 and start doing your research and development and get something going.
Not really.
Okay, because it doesn't seem like it would be that easy.
Yeah. The minimum run on cans, just to get cans, is 202,000 cans, right? Well, $60,000 doesn't buy you 202,000. So what happened is we start calling around to these can manufacturers, and we find the biggest one in the world is Wrexham, and we get the hold of the Western U.S. rep. And this guy's dealing with like Monster and Rockstar and Red Bull and Coke and Pepsi and all the big boys. And we're like, hey, can we buy one pallet of cans that are called silver bullets? They're blank cans, which really you don't get blank cans because all the cans are ordered, they get produced, and then they go through and get printed, right? So to have leftover blank cans is a rarity, and we're like, we want one pallet of blank cans, which is like no money. And he basically laughed at us and said, there's no way that's ever going to happen, and stop wasting my time, kids, you idiots. Like, you don't know anything about beverage. So we sent him a nice little thank you note for taking the call with a $100 Ruth's Chris gift certificate inside. And about 5 days later, we got a call and a pallet of blank cans showed up, and that was the beginning.
Isn't that funny how a little something can tip the scales in your favor?
The power of reciprocity.
Well, so I think that kind of leads perfectly into the real questions I want to ask, and that is, what kind of advice would you give somebody in our community, as there are budding entrepreneurs all through the CrossFit and fitness community, if they wanted to start a company of their own? There are ideas all the time floating around for different products, services, things that would apply to CrossFitters in this community that's exploding still at the moment. What kind of advice would you give somebody who wanted to start a business? How would they even take the first step?
Well, one, I may discourage them from entering the space because it is getting very, very crowded. I think 10 years ago, 5 years ago, especially domestically, it was such an emerging market, and it was still very young, and now it's becoming much more mature. I think there's probably other lifestyles or sports out there that may be just a little bit earlier that you can ride the waves. So the size of the wave is decreasing, and we just happen to time the market by luck very well.
I would say that's kind of similar with Misfit as well. We hit it right.
We're all here
the timing
because
was bing,
we timed it right
on. Yeah.
And so being accurate in your thinking is essential when you're developing a product or service for any space, and you have to be accurate about the demand for the product or service, and also the timing. A lot of people don't take into account. You could have the best idea in the world, but if it's a year too early or a year too late, then you're effed. So.
Your story, actually, I'm sure you've read the book or heard of the book, The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, yeah.
Your story just reminds me of all the anecdotal stories through that book about meeting the right people at the right time in your life, under the right circumstances, and with a little bit of knowledge and almost hard-headedness and going right after it, you make something really huge happen, but you can't really point to any one thing that sort of tipped it in your favor. And now we're sitting here together, started a programming and coaching company, you started a beverage company, and now we're in Miami partying for the weekend with a couple hundred athletes, which is pretty wild, right? I don't think either of us could look back at our experiences and say, oh, this was the moment. I think it was just a combination of, especially with, even both sides, just being right time, right place in a budding new market. That's, I think, is still taking off, but you're right. More and more businesses come in all the time, and there's only so many knee sleeve companies you can have. There's only so many grip companies you can have, compression companies, clothing companies, right? So all these things are filling up. However, if somebody wanted to take the first step and said, shut up, Aaron, I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like that. Just the fact that they would object to that and go for it anyway.
You got to be ballsy, right?
You got to be ballsy. That's the first step.
So if they had an idea for a product and they wanted to take the first step forward, put their foot in, what would you have them do?
Number one, always play the long game. I think too many people are focused on kind of short-term results, and there's never benefit by taking shortcuts. Always play the long game. There's certain things when I talk to successful entrepreneurs that are just consistent that everyone takes for granted, yet for some reason, because it's almost too obvious, that information doesn't get passed down to like newbie entrepreneurs. It's like, you must have kick-ass quality product or service. Right. Number one, like I see so many janky products and stuff on the market. I'm like, what were you thinking? Like, how could this ever have made it to production? Didn't any of your friends say, no, this is shit? Like, that needs to happen way more often. Like, I encourage,
Some people don't have good enough friends that would tell them, you're really fucking this one up. Like, let's try something else again. They're like, that's a great effort. Keep it up. Like, that's not really a good friend.
No. It's like the whole, like, oh, you competed, so you get a ribbon. No, there's only one first place trophy, and, you gotta strive for that. Like, they're putting, so we can't tolerate mediocrity, especially with review sites and a community like ours. I mean, it's very cult-like, and I say that in a positive way, because the vetting process, you can't have shitty products and have it taken up by a community that is so focused on performance, because every little tweak can make a difference. And you're putting out something shit. Everyone's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, that's great," but no, it's shit. And
what's funny is even the companies that take one of their first major steps is they'll go out and they'll try to find an athlete or a couple athletes that can start to promote their product in social media. And even if you're paying the athlete or giving them a really good deal or sponsoring them in some way, if the product's not good, they're still telling their friends that they don't like the product, and that still gets out, right? So if you're not giving them something really good, like, you're still not going to get anything back no matter how many Instagram posts that you make about it. The truth will come to the surface, especially in our community.
And I would challenge those athletes, don't degrade your personal ethics by taking a check over what you believe in. I mean, the first thing foremost, and we sponsor you and a lot of your athletes and Ben Alderman over there. I mean, it's like, we have to have people that believe in the vision, use our products, like them. Like, there's no amount of money. There's nothing that would happen that ever say, I don't care how big of a star, if they're like, weren't actually participating in what we're all about. There's no check that's ever going to get written to do that. So it's like, I
agree.
You got to drink the Kool-Aid or drink the Life-Aid in this situation, right? And the same thing, like, you don't want anyone endorsing your coaching programs that don't actually follow them.
Right. And people ask us all the time, like, what does it take to get on Team Misfit? And we say, how long have you been following Misfit and like being a part of what we're doing? Oh, I just got on like 2 months ago. It's like, well, you're nowhere near. I don't care if you've been to the games like twice. You know what I mean? Like, follow for a while, talk to us, get in with us, hang out with us, be a part of what we're doing before we'll even consider buying you anything, paying for anything, setting you up anywhere. Like, you have to believe in what we're doing and be a part of it. Just like with your community, the FitAid community is awesome. All the athletes are super down to earth, really cool people. I've never run into a FitAid athlete that I'm like, Aaron, you should cut that guy. I can't stand that fucking guy. He's an asshole. Never once. It's never happened. So
no, we're so blessed. I mean, what an incredible community of human beings. I was talking with somebody earlier today, and it's like, we were talking about yanking our kids out of school, and I'm just talking about like the negative programming that you almost have to unwind sometimes, just by the nature of the way people are, that happens in school. And in the public education system, we're so focused on what you want to be when you grow up. But the real question should be who you want to be. Do you want to be a person of high integrity? Do you want to be a person that's trustworthy? Do you want to be a person that does what you say you're going to do? Do you want to be a person of your word? You know, that should be the focus, because who the fuck cares what you end up doing? Because if you have that in line, you're going to contribute to society regardless of what profession you choose.
100%. And those are exact qualities that parents should instill in children, and adults should ask themselves that same question all the time. Once you're an adult, you should be asking yourself, like, am I a person of integrity? Am I doing the things I need to be doing? Because, I mean, it took me even forever to figure out what the hell I wanted to do in life. I was a piss poor student in school. Nothing challenged me, nothing engaged me. And then outside of school, when you start to really think about life and what's going to drive you, motivate you, you can figure shit out pretty quick. But, I mean, I could talk about public school for a while because I have my own opinions on that. We'll skip right over that.
I was on the County Board of Education in
really?
Santa Cruz, the only libertarian ever elected to countywide position in Santa Cruz County twice. And it was eye opening. I'm like, okay, now I'm back in apathy mode. Like, you get really passionate, and then you're like, I can't change anything. Screw it all.
I didn't know you were an elected official as well. At some point. Wow.
I was for 6 years.
That's awesome. Well, we'll wrap up. Any final words for any budding athletes, entrepreneurs? Any last bit of advice you want to give anyone out there that might be listening?
Yeah, I mean, I would say always, number one, choose a single target market, whether that's CrossFit or something else. Choose a single target market, be authentic, be part of the community. Don't just try to sell into the community or monetize it. Be part of the community, because if you're not authentic, people will sense that right away. And, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're not playing the long game. And number three, always play the long game in your personal life, in relationships. I was talking with Kenny Santucci earlier today, right over there. And we talked about like the reason why the guy was an MTV star for like a decade long is because he didn't buy into all the bullshit that all this reality TV stuff were stabbing everybody in the back. He's like, I make an alliance with somebody, I befriend you, like, we're going to stick this out even if the ship sinks at the end. I'm not going to stab you in the back. And having that kind of trust and relationship always works out to your advantage in the long run. So even in the short run too. So there's no downside to it. Play the long game.
That's a great message, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah,
cool.
Good times.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next time.